Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are listening to the Life After Hurt podcast with yours truly, Nicole and Sweeney. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in on yet another episode. We are officially on episode number 36, entitled Make Sure You Get Your Education by Mama Black. Now, Journee has officially transitioned to college and living on campus 2 hours away from her family and friends. During her transition to college, she met some very, very important people that would help her on her journey with life after hurt. So, these next couple of episodes, you will hear from those individuals that played a major part in Journee's healing. Now, what I want you to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the next couple of episodes. Episode number 37, entitled Living Branch Ministries, you will hear from none other than Reverend Paul. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to today's Life After Hurt podcast with yours truly, Nicole and Sweeney. Today we are on episode number 37, entitled Living Branch Ministries, John verse 15, 1 through 17. And I am so excited to have a special guest on today's episode, and that is Reverend Stanley Williams, known as Reverend Stan. And Reverend Stan was actually my campus minister while I was at college, and he is also in my book, Life After Hurt. So he is going to be joining us today, and I'm so excited to have him on today's podcast episode. How are you, Reverend Stan?
Grace and peace, Nicole. I am doing very well, and I'm so grateful, and I'm very honored that you would extend to me the privilege to be a part of your podcast and to be a part of this journey with you as you're moving with this book and doing so much to help a lot of people. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this with you today.
You're welcome. So we have a lot to discuss in today's podcast episode, and I just wanted to start off with asking you a question, Reverend Stan. So how did you come into being a campus minister? What made you go that route?
Wow, that's a whole podcast by itself.
The short version, Reverend Stan.
Short version, right? You know, you ask a preacher to give his testimony in 30 Well, it's interesting. I actually had my eyes when I was a high school kid. I had my eyes set on being a naval officer. I'm blind. That didn't work. So I went off to college with the design of being an engineer or a lawyer, and got saved when I was a freshman. Pivoted from the University of Puget Sound after coming to know Christ to Howard University, which is still the mecca of higher education in the free world. I did. I said it.
I know.
But at that institution was profoundly influenced by persons like Reverend Eugene Burrell, persons like Reverend Joseph Smith, and really pivoted in my dreams and ambitions away from the things that I had really outlined would be my purpose, and just said, okay, God, I'm open to whatever it is. As long as it isn't the ministry, I'm good. I'm good. But was very clearly confirmed in an understanding through the word, prayer, and God really showing God's self to me, and then confirming that in the fellowship and the church where I was, that God's call on my life was for ministry, and so said yes to it. And so the rest has been an adventure. Here we go.
And here we are today, right? So you said a very key word, purpose. One of the things that I vividly remember just during my college experience and having you as my campus minister was you helping us discover and take steps to uncovering what our purpose is.
Mm.
And that was something I had never been exposed to before college or even coming to Rutgers.
Mm.
And it certainly made an impact on me in my life just as an adult right now.
Mm.
And it's like something I can't really live without. It's like purpose is a part of my being.
Mm.
So what advice would you give to individuals, to the listeners who may not know what their purpose is, and how do they go about discovering what God may have called them to?
Well, that's an awesome question. I give thanks and I give praise and I give all credit to God and I give him the glory for how all of you who are part of that ministry, which was founded by Kiana Ralph and Rachel Olurunshola and Curtis Williams, and there were a few others. But how God used that, I think, is tremendous for persons who are exploring this question, whether they are believers or not.
Mhm.
And engaging this whole question. I'm of the opinion. Richard Swenson wrote a book called Margin, and in his book he deals with four areas where there's a need for margin. It was one of the first books that kind of cued me into thinking about these kinds of issues in light of some of the stuff he raised. Um, Obviously, there's some other stuff that's kind of expanded my thinking around it, and it's obviously rooted in scripture. But to get at that, I think that it's so important for all of us to become self-aware, to become aware of how we're wired, to become aware of our temperament, to become aware of the ways that we are innately wired and framed and oriented, whether it's to do team stuff, to do task stuff. What are our principal motives and drives? And to become clear about those kinds of things, and to allow people who we trust have our best interests at heart. One,
Mhm.
and who genuinely will tell us the truth, and try to be compassionate about it, but give us the framed, unfiltered truths that help us to get mirrors for who we are seen to be, what our strengths are.
Mhm.
Um, Gallup did a document. The document was framed to explore, after having crossed the entire globe, what are the themes, the strength themes of the human being? Concerning human being, are there innate strength themes? Put together a book, compiled it. It's called Strength Finders 2.0. And as persons, whether they're Christian or not Christian, believer or non-believer, however you're framed, are seeking to get at purpose stuff, I would say begin with some self-awareness stuff, and strength finders would be one of the things that I would explore, because what is going to at least help you to identify, in light of the specific human theories and in terms of psychology and that are a part of that inventory, is this: what are the things that you are naturally good at, um,
Mm.
and you enjoy doing them? So if you can surface what you actually like to do, and you actually are good at doing it, that takes some stuff off the table right there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because what we're seeking to clarify and give some concrete to is, what must my life say yes to? That's what we're talking about when we talk about purpose. And to the extent we are able to get very clear about what my life must say yes to, then in that sense, we have greater peace about saying no.
Mm.
Because that's the issue for many of us.
Mm.
If I say no, am I gonna miss out? Am I gonna miss out on something? And when you have clarity about what you must say yes to, then you have greater peace, or you can have a little more courage to say no. And so I think that would be a first step that I would commend to folks.
Wow. Greater peace about saying no.
Yeah.
When you discover your purpose and what you are supposed to do, you have, and not to say that you can't focus on other things, but you have a tunnel vision of what you're supposed to do, why you're here, and what God called you to, so much so that you aren't distracted by
Right.
things that are not a part of your purpose and what you are supposed to do. So it makes you, like you said, it gives you much more courage to say no to things. And that is very, very important when it comes to discovering your purpose.
Yeah.
I like that you said that. That was very, very powerful.
Yeah. I mean, you can apply this across all spectrums, not only how you relate to yourself, how you relate, to God, and how you relate to people. So, for the person who is on the prospective relationship hunt, um, if you get clear about the strengths that you bring to a relationship and the strengths that the person you are looking to have in your life needs to bring to the relationship. We're talking strengths now.
Yeah.
And you don't see these strengths in somebody, even though homeboy is cute as can be, bulging biceps and nice smile and a long car and a big house. You can say no with great peace or greater peace, because whoever he's right for, it isn't you. And conversely, if she's got all the curves, but the content in terms of strengths are not there, then at least you can see that this probably this is not the best fit. You're gonna have to make this one work. So yeah.
So basically you're saying the more self-aware you are, the stronger sense of purpose that you understand for yourself, the less you will find yourself in relationships that are wasteful.
Almost definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, in fairness, Ken Sande writes a book called The Peacemakers. But he has gone on to, which in my opinion is an awesome text, because he's talking about how to resolve conflict. But what he, I think, has given summum bonum as a gift for all humans is something he calls relational wisdom. In fact, rw360.org is his website, Relational Wisdom 360 Degrees. And his theoretical construct is this: the most important thing we can do if we want to know ourselves is to become God aware, because becoming God aware lays the foundation to become self-aware, and to be self-aware gives us a reference point to be others aware. And so, so that's kind of where some of this is coming from.
Okay. Yeah, that's very, very powerful. On the tangent of purpose, when it comes to individuals, in addition to discovering their purpose, do you believe that our purpose were created to help others, to uplift others, to build up others? What's the outward, I guess, benefits of purpose?
Awesome question. And again, you know me, I'm your former campus minister, and my presumption is that foundational to our purpose is that we are intended to give God glory. So it's first upward.
Yes.
First is upward. Second is outward.
Okay.
Okay. Towards others. And so we find this subsumed in the language of Jesus. Jesus, is asked this question, what's the most important, what's the most significant of all the words that are found in the entire library, if you will, of God revealing God's self to humankind? What's the most important sentence in all of that? And of course, Jesus gives the answer: "Hear, O Israel, the Lord, our Lord, is one. You will love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and body." And the second is like to the first, love your neighbor.
Mm.
So love God and love your neighbor. Of course, most people be like, well, it's in this, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. And of course, we gotta stick ourselves in there. We gotta do it. But let's be clear about the language. The language is to love God and love your neighbor. So yeah.
Mm. Okay. Okay. All right. So, one of the things that I believe is important to helping individuals discover their purpose is mentorship.
Mhm.
And I talked a lot about that in my fiction novel, Life After Her, and how you also not only served as our campus minister, but you were also a very pivotal part in being a mentor
Mm.
to those who are part of the Liver Branch Ministries, specifically me, because we're talking about me right now. So, in terms of mentorship, I just remember you having us do various activities, taking us on mission trips to help us really get a sense of what we like
Mhm.
and to expose us to different things, which I thought is very, very important, especially for college students. So, when it comes to mentorship, I have two questions.
Okay.
What are some things that individuals should look for when seeking out a mentor?
Mm.
And my second question, I don't know what that face is about, Reverend Stan, but my second question is, does should everyone have a mentor?
Mm.
Some type of mentor or coach or someone that they can confide in or build them up that may know more than they do.
Yeah.
So those are my two questions for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite a bit there. So that's a long podcast. There are three right there. Okay. But mentoring is so important. I want to say this off the top. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to walk with all of you in your journey while you were students, because you didn't have to. Um, all of you could have come in, ate the food, listened to the Bible study, and went on about your day. But several of you
Yes.
chose to accept my challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And they were those. That's what they were. They were challenges. And so I think that that's one of the things about a mentor as you're looking for, um, a mentor. I think it's so important to be clear for yourself, either is there a person who can pull something out of me, or is there something I'm aware of within me for which I need help to have it drawn out and developed in me?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're clear about either what it is intrinsic to you, one, or what it is about this particular person, two, that you see, that you want, either they have, that you want to pull out on the basis of influence, because that's all that's going to be, is a relational transaction of influence. And I'll just illustrate real quick. So when I got saved, the reason I got saved was because this guy named Leslie Braxton, who now pastors a church somewhere between Seattle and Tacoma. But when I was a freshman, just entered school, I saw in Leslie Braxton a variety of characteristics, and I was like, this dude is awesome. And I don't know how I'm gonna do it, because he is the epitome of cool, and I'm a nerd. Um, but I'm gonna try. It took y'all telling me I was a nerd for me to finally embrace the fact that I'm a nerd, because I was trying to claim cool all these
Oh,
years.
were you?
I
Oh,
sure
wow.
was. In fact, in my own imagination, I'm cool. Anyway,
Yep,
uh,
you cool, Reverend Stan.
thank you. I appreciate it. I saw the look though. I didn't see the look. Okay, but here, I made it a point. So this guy has something, and I want it, and so I just began to look for ways to hang around him,
Mm.
and that was really it. I just decided, I'm gonna go. I know where he's gonna be, so whenever he's going, I know when he's coming on campus, so I'm just gonna be there. And so he had a job on campus. He was kind of oversaw one of the lounge areas for the student center. And so I knew he had to go there because this is his job.
Uh-huh.
So I would go there and just hang out there and then, strike up a conversation with him and just start picking his brain.
Mm.
And of course, he was a star football player at the school. And so after he left his job and did all his studies, he would go to the gym. And so, I kind of was, sort of kind of interested in fitness, but because of him, that's really the reason I got really interested in fitness is because of him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was that reference point, and he may not have known that I had enlisted him
as your mentor.
But I'd already enlisted him in that sense. When I got to Howard, I actually asked the brother, I asked Eugene Burrell, I said, Brother Burrell, I'm not going to become a disciple of Jesus the way I can read in this Bible I need to, unless, the little stuff we do here and here and here, that's not going to get it for me. Need some special attention.
Right.
And so he set the terms, and this is the piece about a mentor. A good mentor will actually define terms to really get how serious we were. We were getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We had to be at the place at 6, which meant I had to catch a shuttle bus to get to campus. Oh boy! But there you go. So
that sounds familiar, Reverend Stan.
Oh, does it? It sounds familiar.
Yes, it sounds very familiar.
See what had happened was.
Okay.
I was just trying to test to see anyway, I got it from Eugene, and I make no apologies about that. Gene was that way, and so I was like, it worked. Because it definitely separated the wheat from the tares.
Yeah.
But here, so what's in you, or you see something in them, and you work on that. One layer in this is about cultivation. One layer is cultivation. But another layer in this is about what I call either one of two types of covering. Either it's an uncovering where you actually, it's always been there and you just uncover it, or you discover it. And your coach is helping you to discover it. It can be about skills, it can be about attitudes, it can be about new convictions, new paradigms, but it's an uncovering or a discovering, and it's all in the context of cultivation. It's something either you recognize within yourself needs to grow, needs to change, it's either intrinsic or it's because you see something in terms of the patterns of this person, their personality, the content of who they are, their competencies, their character, perhaps. But those would be the things that I would say kind of frame how you come at identifying who can help you go to your next step.
Yeah, who can help you go to your next step? And I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is definitely a difference between healthy mentorship and unhealthy mentorship, right? Because we do have mentors that are out there, but they may not be coaching someone up in a positive way or leading them in a positive way. So what are the top 3 characteristics do you think a person should look out for when choosing or trying to select or search out a mentor?
Wow, that's 3. Okay, so with a coach, and this is an important thing, I think, oftentimes the presumption is that if they have not mastered a thing, then they can't tell you about a thing.
Right.
Which may or may not be true.
Okay.
A good coach may not need to know the subject as well as they need to know you.
Okay.
Okay. So it may be that they absolutely know nothing about your field, your endeavor, your industry, your aspiration, your goal, but they know you.
Okay.
And you trust them in how they know you, to really be that person who will not allow you to remain mediocre. And if that's what's there, then that's sufficient for a good coaching dynamic. They know you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful, because oftentimes we think that a mentor needs to have the same interest or passion or be at I guess a higher level in the area where we want to go. But you're saying that does not have to be the case. They just need to know you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it is oftentimes that they don't know you, but they actually know what it is you want to grow or develop or train or heal or whatever it is, and they know that.
Okay.
And concerning that, that's the point of convergence. Now let's be clear, that's connected to you, but that's not you. That's the goal, that's the
Right.
that's the task, that's the paradigm shift. And all of that is connected to you, but it is not you. So when I think coaches, obviously they're at that point, they're coaching a task related to you. Okay.
Okay.
But they, which is necessary and valuable. But I would say that's different from someone who is mentoring, because a mentor that's actually a relationship.
Okay.
So yeah. So but I want to make room for because I know the word is used in a variety of ways. That
Yes.
it's not you, is what, so it's not who you are to become, it is how you are to behave. And so there's different designs or domains within the ways in which being is interrelated with behaving, becoming, believing, and so forth. And so I think that's important to appreciate, that if you know that it's not them coaching and cultivating the quintessence of who you need to be and become. It may just be them coaching you in relation to how you need to belong or behave, or believe. And so those are rubrics for which, what I would say, are the benchline non-negotiable metrics. They vary across that spectrum. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I've never thought about it that way, because I have a mentor, and he was a former supervisor, and it was related, I guess, to my goals, right? But you, on the other hand, it's just a difference. I feel like you mentor me specifically to the person I am to become. So I never thought about that. And I don't think a lot of people think about mentorship in that way. I think they typically search out mentors based on maybe a job placement or church, and you don't have to look for mentors specifically in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was good. That's good.
Yeah.
So in your experience, who is more likely to I don't want to say submit. I'm going to use the word submit, but submit to mentorship, males or females?
Really?
I'm asking. In your experience.
Oh, wow.
Be honest, Rubberstan.
Really? You really want to go there with me?
No, I do. Because
Okay.
I have a follow-up question to that question.
Okay. So, see, I'm biased on this one.
You cannot be biased,
I
Rubberstan.
actually am biased on this one. I'm biased on this one. So, and all of these, so you're talking about the dynamics of the relationship. Those really are the variables in this.
Okay.
So where there is trust, so now we're talking relational currencies now. So where there's mutual trust, mutual respect, and transparency. That's my qualifier to this.
Okay.
Okay. That's my qualifier to this. So I have found that, and this is the other piece too. So gender is a function in this. This is a function. So you're gonna get upset when I say this. When I mentor, if a young man enlists me to mentor him, I get more cooperation. I do.
Really?
Yeah.
We're not talking about cooperation, Rubberstan.
So that's my code word for submission.
Okay. You females, really? We haven't cooperated with you?
Oh, yes, you have. But I also know that there's a transparency filter. There's an index of transparency.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess.
Yeah, you're gonna have to guess because the fact is there's only and I appreciate that because there's you can fairly say I'm not comfortable being this transparent across the gender line, and I get that.
Okay.
I get
Okay.
yeah. But that delimits in what ways you will cooperate with me because there's some stuff I can't uncover with you.
Ah, gotcha. That's understandable.
Yeah.
So, well, my follow-up question.
That's what Reverend Paul would have said. And
That's what Reverend Paul would have said.
Mhm.
Okay, Reverend Stan.
Yeah, that's what Reverend Paul would have said.
So my follow-up question was going to be just about young African American men and mentorship, and me, just based off of my experiences with um young men and even working in a school with high school students. There's always a push for more for more male teachers, you know, to be a source of support for young African American men. So that was why I had asked that question. So
Yeah.
so for young men, so young African American men who may not have positive role models or positive leaders around them, what would you suggest for them to do in order to find one?
Yeah, see, and you just framed, I think, an important contrast point. Think about this. I hope you'll appreciate this. So, in the areas where, and we're now talking about the prototypical, we're talking about social construct prototypes
Mm-hmm.
because, and I think this may be one of the reasons that, I think the answer you expected me to say is females cooperate more, and
Mm-hmm.
and I hear where you're coming from with that. Let's appreciate that for our culture, given where we are in light of the institutional legacy of white supremacy, there is a broader spectrum of places, vocations, aspirations,
Mm-hmm.
um, around which an African American woman, a Black woman, has latitude to
Mm,
engage, to embrace them personally, individually, and to find appropriate mentors.
yes.
By contrast and comparison with the African American male, the Black male.
Yes.
That's a much more constricted scope of opportunities for being, for becoming, for belonging, for aspiring, for dreaming. And there is a commensurately shorter list of appropriate mentors. I think
Mm,
that factor is underappreciated and its impact is underestimated. I really think so.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So we're,
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so when they win, and here's the issue, which is why I'm saying what I'm saying, and I get why you would say, "Come on, Rev, we cooperated more with you than so and so." And I have to confirm that at significant points, much love to Elton. At significant points, much love to Terrio. At significant points, much love to Curtis, Lil Kurt. All right. But at significant points, when it was time to shoulder up the load of leadership, and that it was you, it was Britt, L Boogie, what's up in the place, and several others. I mean, come on, let's talk about it. Kiana
Yeah.
and Rachel were two of the primary cogs in actually kickstarting LBM from its inception.
Yes.
So I get where you're coming from, but I
Yes.
need us to appreciate that is because you had way more support from Rutgers that, well, I wouldn't call at that time the most amenable place for an African American student. But even
Yes.
with that, you still had more amenable personalities and people to choose from to,
Mm,
to help champion you than would be the case for the African American student who's male at that campus. And I really think that that unfortunately undercuts, it militates against finding support systems, basic,
Right.
just a basic support system, let alone a mentor in the context of basic support. And that's why I say what I say. So if a young guy is going to come up, and I'll illustrate this, one of my students who's in seminary right now, a young man, and that is his deliberation. That's his deliberation, and that's his point of need at this point. It's like, other than my talks with you, Rev, I don't have somebody that I would even consider an encourager, let alone
Wow.
a mentor
Wow.
for who I am and what I want to be in this institutional setting.
Wow.
And yeah, it's tough. So at that point, then you have, and I hate to say it this way, but you have to start outsourcing aspects of mentorship.
Yeah. So having more than one mentor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was something I had just been thinking about, just the lack of mentorship for African American men. So I don't know, is there a solution for that? What is besides prayer, but what's something that we can do about that?
Okay, so one of my things that I love to do is ride a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when you become rich and famous, you know what I'm coming for, right?
Yes, I do.
Anyway, but the world's fastest man, the first world's fastest man was a man by the name of Marshall Major Taylor. They call him Major Taylor. In fact, the cycling club out of Newark, New Jersey, the Brick City Bone Shakers. Big up to the Brick City Bone Shakers, if any of them happen to watch. But they're named after Marshall Taylor, who was mentored in cycling by a white guy.
Hmm.
So this person took him under his wing and cultivated, helped him to discover and uncover his strengths as a cyclist. Now here, and this is fair. I've got a couple books that one is autobiographical, where he speaks about his own life, and then a couple others where some persons have written about him. But here's a young man who's got an innate desire and ability to be a great cyclist, but he probably would not have become the dominating world champion super cyclist that he became had it not been for this Anglo fellow who took him under his wing, and literally cultivated and coached some things into and out of him. So I think at a certain point, me,
I
y'all
know.
me, I'm from a Pan-African place called the Mecca of higher education and free, anyway, in the free world. But at any rate, that's why I said you may have to outsource this thing.
Okay.
And identify some people who, while they may not be conversant with everything about who you are, they can certainly help you. They can champion elements about what you must do.
Okay. Okay.
And to the extent that they actually embrace your humanity, which may be a progressive piece. Let's be clear about that. They may not begin embracing your humanity in the ways that they embrace their own. In the context of the relationship, by the grace of God and on the basis of how they can become sensitized, because that's what's actually happened with Major Taylor. Here's a person who learns, he becomes sensitized to Marshall Taylor because he actually does life with Marshall Taylor.
Okay.
He gets to see how many fences and roadblocks were placed in front of this young man, specifically because people were afraid of him. And so it's those kinds of things that help form the web, which frame the ways in which their humanity became knitted together. And now it's not just me helping you on your bike, it's me helping you with relation to who you must be in light of the hostility and the antagonism that is never going away.
Right. Wow.
One. Two is also me, because this is what his coach did, It's also me attempting to navigate and negotiate in your behalf in circles and settings where
Mm-hmm.
you will never get a voice.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think also a part of mentorship is the person that is in need of it, they also have to be open and willing and cooperative, as you put it, to that process, because it's accountability. It's like you said, being challenged and willing to grow and do the work to grow.
Yeah.
So all of that is a part of the process as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to transition into a little bit more of the message of my book about life after hurt and just my experience with recovering from hurt and loss, and just being in a situation relationally that just ended in such a toxic way. So what are some of the things that you suggest for individuals who may have experienced hurt, loss, in any dynamic? How do they, what would you recommend for them to begin recovery? Because I think there are a lot of people who are still hurting from things from childhood to, being a teenager, things that they just never dealt with and probably are just very scared to go back to those places.
Yeah.
And they're feeling stuck, but don't know how to recover from it. So, what are some biblical ways and practical ways for recovery when it comes to hurt and loss?
Yeah. So, it's interesting that you would ask me that question. Thank you for asking me that question. I'm sure Reverend Paul would have really appreciated that question too. I'm just joking with you, a little bit. But let's be very clear. I think it's there are a few things that even your character appreciates, and that is the need for the therapeutic process.
Mm,
Um, the therapeutic process and counseling. So we're talking coaching on the one hand, therapeutic process and counseling on the other. And I really am grateful that there has been a renewed emphasis, or perhaps maybe not renewed, but a much more resourced emphasis on therapy, mental health, and counseling. When we talk about hurt and we talk about loss, we are ultimately talking about mental and emotional health.
mm,
And I think in the same ways that, if we're just going to be frank about our cultural narrative,
yeah.
not only do we not do physical health
Mm-hmm.
with the kind of diligence that it deserves, but we're almost in denial about mental and emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important first types of steps that can be taken is to actually frame. It's like this. If I ever do write a book, I'm going to talk about the five irreducible currencies of life. The second most important currency of life is health, and
Mm,
health as a currency is striated in at least four categories. We obviously begin with spiritual health. We talk about
mm,
mental health. We talk about emotional health, and we talk about physical health. But let's be clear that for each of those categories, as subcategories of health, they each require a stewardship. And I think an appropriate accounting in that stewardship, just like you have or should have an accountant or somebody who helps you with your money, even if all they do
mm.
is just talk with you. You may not give them your books because some of us are funny like that, but you at least let them look at your books
Right.
to give you some pointers so that when you finish working, your money keeps working for you. I think in that same way, you actually need to have some persons who help you to get a clear accounting for where your spiritual health is, whether you're a believing person or a non-believing person, you do have a spirituality. You are a being that is much more than just oxygen and some enzymes and some chemicals. You actually are something that has a suki to it. It's a spiritual aspect. Um, and and your mental health and your emotional health. And there are categories of persons who have been trained, who have been prepared, and who can at least give you a reference point. This is how I see where you are emotionally. And to have someone give you that as a reference point, at the very least, gives you a benchmark to say, okay, I just talked to someone and this is what they heard in my emotional state of being.
Okay.
And to have someone say, you sound kind of bitter right there.
Bitter.
No, I just heard a little resentment and and so those things are helpful because they keep us from having, in the health domain of things, blind spots.
Mm.
Okay, so the last thing, I'm from the South. Y'all know that about me, and we don't call diabetes down south. We call it the sugar.
The
So we
sugar.
call it,
Okay.
I got the sugar, um, and they're not talking about something good. It's bad. You got,
Yeah.
you know, um, but that sneaks up on people because they're not getting regular health checks.
Yeah.
And so the point that I'm saying with all this, hopefully going too far, but making my point emphatically, is to have regular check-ins emotionally, to have regular check-ins mentally, to have someone give you, I'm going to sit down once 18 months and say, you know what, I'm just coming in. I just want you to give me your assessment. I trust you as a professional. Give me your assessment. There are a couple questions you normally ask people to gauge where they are with
Yeah.
respect. Here, let's do that. And then you tell me what you hear. Um, I may choose not to work with you, but at least I have listened to you tell me what you heard as you talk to me about what I am giving you in terms of responses and therefore registering as an index on where I am in that category.
Yeah.
I think that's a starting place. I think beyond that, when you already know that there's some stuff going on, because let's just be clear, there's mental dysfunction, there's emotional dysfunction, there's spiritual dysfunction, and there's physical dysfunction. Those are indicators that, as it relates to my well-being, my overall health and wholeness, something is missing, something is broken, something, you know what I'm saying? And so
Yes.
when we know that this thing keeps happening,
Mm-hmm.
then I think we already know that there's
Yeah.
something, and we can bring that. Say, okay, when I get to this point with respect to my emotionality, I freeze, I seize up, uh,
Yeah.
I shut down. However whatever the language is that we use to approximate or articulate what it is, we know that that's the truth about us. And so we can bring that reality to someone and say, what might this be rooted in?
Mm.
Okay. And then they can
Mm.
help us. They can help us because now, I mean, here, I don't know, and I hope you do. I hope everyone is listening that listen to your podcast does. When I go to my doctor, I'm like, Doc, my shoulder was hurting yesterday. And right there, right there, right there. Yeah, no, touch to the right. That's the one. That's the one right there. What could that be? Because it's the same thing I do with my car. I'm like, I heard this sound. Can you look?
Mm.
Because I don't want the thing to break down when I need it,
Right. Right.
and I don't want me to break down
Yeah.
when I need when I am needed or when I need me. So there you go.
Mm. Yes. I feel like a lot of people know everything that you have shared and said. Like they know that they need to be well. They know they need to have an accountant, as you put it, and be a good steward over their spiritual, mental, and emotional and physical health. But they stay stuck. It's a scary process.
Yes.
And I know for Journee, right? Because we're talking about my fiction novel, it took her a lot to get to a space where she actually shared her story because one, she felt like people would judge her or me because I didn't know exactly how people would think about me or what they would say or how they would treat me or just, things you think about with the things you have going on and you already are feeling, just not too good about yourself to begin with. And so to be able to voice it to someone is like, this is real. This is what I'm actually dealing with. So,
Yeah.
In the story, in my book, I do talk about how Journee had come to Reverend Paul. So myself coming to you, Reverend Stan, and just sharing a little bit about my story. And you definitely help to put things in perspective. And even with dealing with talking about the things I have been dealing with, I think you also created a space and opportunity to build me back up, to restore like that confidence and who I was and just reaffirming who I was. And so it's not an easy process with get into that space. I like you said,
Yep.
where the hurt is, you feel it, if it's something you've been dealing with over and over again, you don't miss it, you know exactly what it is. But I think the hard part for people is actually taking the steps
Yeah.
to wellness,
Yeah.
to becoming better, to life after hurt, because I think people are just stuck.
Yeah. Can I comment what you just named? So some of the stuff with Journee. Um,
Yes.
so but it references fear and
Mm,
references fear and shame.
yes.
But there are at least two other energies I think that keep people gridlocked in what I would
Mm,
call, whether you want to call it spiritual or emotional or mental or physical or a combination of all, not only fear and shame, but guilt and anger.
yes.
So across those four, in fact, it doesn't strike me as odd that when you look at the Enneagram, the Enneagram
Hmm.
as a psychological system
Hmm.
frames um, the three primary quadrants or three primary sections around how we are processing one of those four emotions: fear, shame,
Mm,
guilt, and anger. And so what we look at, that's where, that's why folks get stuck.
mm,
Okay, so I can just get so consumed with anger
yeah.
that I'm not, in fact, yeah, I mean, one of the challenges that I can find myself facing is when I recognize something is wrong
Hmm.
and it's so wrong that that ain't right is not enough to say about it. Um, but,
Right.
but let's appreciate you can get stuck in that kind of anger. It's
Mm,
an indignation, but you have nowhere to go with it, so you'll shut down. The same can happen with respect to shame and guilt.
yeah.
So, and again, here's a person who is so arrested by either how they feel when they think about themselves with respect to whatever the question or the issue or the choice may be, or as you described, how others are going to
Yeah.
their thinking. Okay,
Right.
and then converse to that, or on the backside of that, is fear. You know,
Hmm.
so it's not shame, it's not guilt, it's fear. You know, I'm just straight up afraid, and that can paralyze a person. So you're on target with those. I think that you said um, I helped you to have the space,
Hmm.
and I think that the piece with that is grace.
Hmm.
So you find people and you find places where you can access grace,
Hmm.
and the kind of grace that gives you the courage to be compassionate with yourself. Because with respect to either one of those four, it's courage and compassion. You know,
Yeah.
there's going to be how you move forward. Um, and I'm grateful that you allowed me to be one of those agents in your journey, because because the truth is you didn't have to. You didn't have to.
Mhm.
And for persons who are out there who are wrestling, if we can just talk about well-being real quick, you're accurate to say, Nicole, that people already know.
Yeah.
I think people already know. I think people are afraid, especially when we're talking health categories.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a fear um, that someone may confirm what I think may be the case. Last thing I want is to go to the doctor about this ache or pain and find out that my worst fear
Yeah.
is a reality.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that here in this transaction, and I think this is an important piece for persons to in an operational way have in mind as they're identifying the people and the places, is not only is this a space of grace, but the persons that you're enlisting can give you, through wisdom or a network or both, a broad spectrum, as broad as possible, of your options.
Mm.
So that you do not come to engage truth without hope.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
because I think that's important, especially as you start talking about brokenness in yourself, emptiness in yourself, woundedness in yourself. Yeah, I think that's a very important thing. Is this okay? Okay, I'm going to have to deal with the truth, but I also need to know that there is grace and some hope concerning the outlook and the options that are in front of me in terms of the choices I have for how to move forward, how to move beyond, and how to move into a preferred future.
Yeah. I really like what you said about options. And when you are stuck in your hurt or your loss or your anger, your bitterness, your fear, your shame, your guilt, you are not looking at options. You are looking at how you are feeling currently in that situation or what was done to you, whatever the scenario may have been. You're not looking at options. And I know for me personally, with the story with my ex and my sister, it had gotten so bad for me. I think to a point where I had to really tell myself, like, Nicole, you cannot stay in this place. Like it was such a dark period in my life where I was like, Nicole, you cannot stay here. Like you cannot continue to feel this hate towards them. Like you can't let this consume you to a point where I really had to step outside of what I was feeling and begin to seek out, help and talk to people. And I went to counseling. I'm currently, currently have a therapist because, when it comes to hurt and brokenness, you have to continue to sustain your healing because those triggers might come up. And I remember you saying this, Reverend Stan, you said you'll always have triggers, but you have to find ways to de-escalate them because they will always come back up. And so for my listeners, I want you guys to just understand that you really do have to push yourself past what you're feeling because you can't stay in that place. God has so many more options for you, so much more hope for you, so many more blessings, so much life after your hurt that God has so much in store for you to stay stuck in that space. So, I appreciate you making that comment about more options and having hope because when you're in it, you don't see it, but there are options.
Yeah.
There are options.
There are. Yeah. And again, the things that you're pointing out, they're so important. That's why having not only good counsel, but then connecting with healthy community is going to help you to experience spaces of grace, spaces where you are loved and told the truth in love, um, made to know that you belong, and encouraged to become.
Mm.
Yeah.
So a part of that healing process also includes being around right community.
Very, very important.
Mm. Mm. Well, that actually is, I think, probably one of the most important pieces to healing, I think, and moving past your hurt and your loss, or whatever the situation might be, is reestablishing your community, and just being surrounded around the right people. Because I know, for me personally, after writing this book, I forget who I was telling this to. I think it was either Stephanie, or it may have been you, Bernstein, but I feel like me coming to Rutgers after, when everything was happening, it really saved my life. Because had I remained, back home in this situation, being surrounded around all the drama and the toxicity of being in that relationship, I don't know where it would have landed me. But I think me coming to Rutgers was my option. Me meeting, all of you was my hope. And so I believe that was my healing. That started my healing process. I can say that started my healing process.
Amen.
So community is very important.
So important. And that's why I'm so grateful that LBM was the gift that it was at Rutgers University for so many college students. It was a place where you could belong. And it gave birth to places where people could belong. So there were a variety of other communities that grew out of LBM. Not many of them maintained the same DNA of grace and truth in the same mixture in terms of proportions. But I affirm that what you just said. I think community is so important. That community had its anchor in faith. And I think there's a lot to be said. Now, there's a variety of reasons that people do affinity in community, but I really believe that the nexus of faith as the bedrock of a community, your belonging, is rooted in the stuff. And this was a Christian faith community. So it is rooted in spiritual realities, which are essentially grounded in grace and forgiveness, mercy and truth, hope and peace, joy. Those kinds of realities are a type of resource for belonging that not only give you glue, but they frame some things that give you resilience as well as a group. So that's an important piece too.
Resilience, yes. Very important piece. And I keep asking this question because I feel like there are individuals who may not have had the same opportunities as me with being able to be surrounded around a community of people where there was grace and compassion and hope and faith and, forgiveness, everything you just named. Not everyone has access to that. And so I always think about those who are in a space where they, may feel stuck. Where do they go for a community? Like, how do they find community?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's
a real tough one, because one challenge in this is knowing where to even begin the search.
right.
And the where is oftentimes a who. So who it's a person who chooses to dispose themselves to be available and to make available their community in behalf of someone who does not yet have a sense of belonging and connectedness. And goodness, yeah, I've been doing this a while. It's hit or miss. It really is. It's hit or miss. I remember a good number of young people who would be attracted to LBM, but not graft into LBM. And so that becomes a piece of the dilemma is, okay, in here. And so for several of the students, because I've had an opportunity to kind of do exit piece with some of the folks. Someone said, well, what was it about the group? And they said it wasn't the group, it was me. I didn't feel like, I knew where the group was heading, and I didn't know if if I would hold the group back or if I would fit in.
Right.
So you got all this, and so maintaining this unpretentious, in terms of religiosity, scalar scheme that, you know what, this is about regular people. And yeah, we are passionate about these things, and our priority is to follow Christ. But 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 you know, uh, but for the grace of God, I know a type of brokenness that you don't even want me to tell you about. That's in my narrative.
Yeah.
And being so real, and reachable, approachable, that's the tension in the group. So one piece is people finding the group, but the other piece is the group being able to maintain doors of openness so that people
Yeah.
can find their way into the group. And so
Yeah.
there's multiple layers to it. But you talk about a person finding a group, one, two, figuring out whether they fit into the group. Because that's real. Let's just keep it real. Any group. So where I am in my community here, there's a couple different groups that are dealing with Narcotics Anonymous, and a lot of guys that I'm trying to get into a group so they can get some support.
Yeah.
They will come and they'll be like, "Yo, man, I appreciate you bringing me into this and this, but I don't fit in with this group of people." And I'm like,
That
I know what they're saying too. I know
yeah.
exactly what they're trying to name, because of how they see the group. They perceive
Yeah.
that the people are here and they're here.
Yes.
And
yes.
yeah.
I think that's an issue with the church too. Not an issue. I don't want to call it an issue, but a lot of people that may not have been raised in the church, they do have this perception that you have to wait till you get it right to come to church, or like you said, they see themselves here and then the church here. So that is a myth, because we all have flaws, and none of us are perfect, right? So I think my hope and prayer is that for individuals that are struggling with trying to be a part of a community such as a church community, that they I don't know, that God would just lead them into the church where they do feel comfortable and not feel like they're being judged or looked at as less than for maybe wanting to be a part of it, but not feeling like they're right within themselves to be a part.
Yeah. So if you will recall, and I'm trying to remember where in Journee. So LBM made you know you belong there. And it wasn't LBM, it was people who were a part of LBM.
Yes.
And I think that's the resolution. I think that's the solution to the challenge, is people intentionally causing other people to know we want you and you belong here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about relationships. Yeah, that's so true. That's exactly one of the reasons why Journee, myself, joined LBM. It was because of my friends, my girls from Rutgers. Shout out to my girls from Rutgers. They made me feel a part of LBM.
That's right.
I think that's the answer. Yeah. That's the answer.
Yeah, they pursued you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They did. I remember that. I have so many memories that I share in my book. So y'all get your copy of Life After Hurt if you haven't done so. But yeah, I remember that vividly.